Run through the tape. In life, never give up. Run through the tape.
Man, what a second half we got coming up in this game. The Clippers and the San Antonio Spurs with the series lead at stake. DeAndre Jordan up top. Clippers by 1 over the Spurs in a 2-2 series. Great Game 5 out there at Staples Center. Sprint halftime report, Ernie Johnson, Charles Barkley, Kenny the Jet Smith, and Shaquille O'Neal. Boy, there have been a couple of runs by the San Antonio Spurs when they fell behind in this game. Notably, that 15-0 run bridging the first and second quarters, it was all bench, Shaq.
Yeah, all bench. You know, the starters weren't really particularly playing too well, but, you know, the San Antonio others, they do it again. And, you know, these guys are specialists at what they do. You know, we all know they move the ball to perfection. Right there, Boris Diaw, not really a scorer, but if you give him opportunity to play and make points, he will. This guy right here is a special. This is what he does. Patty, All-Seat Mills, he shoots a 3. And right here, Kawhi getting to this guy in North Carolina. Kenny, sometimes he's on, sometimes he's off, but when he's on, he's on. And this guy right here was brought in the game to do the hacker DeAndre, but guess what? He's the Red Rocket. He still can shoot. So San Antonio, others keeping the Spurs alive. And in the words of my good friend Kenny Smith, it's going down to the wire.
Going down to the wire, baby.
Yeah, they had runs of 15-0 and 14-2, yet the Clippers have the lead by 1. You said it before the series started. Blake Griffin's a handful. He had 21 in the first half, which matches his playoff high for a first half.
When you look at this series, you'll go back and look at any game. They can't stop Blake. They got nobody. They're either too little or they're too big. And he's so athletic, they just can't stop him. But, Ernie, just watching this game is going to come down to a couple things. Blake and Chris Paul dominating. Whatever they can get out of DeAndre is a bonus. But can the Clippers get anything out of their bench? Because you go back to Game 1, it was Blake and Chris. They were just magnificent. Game 2, the Spurs bench basically won the game. Game 3, the Spurs bench won the game. Game 4, the Clippers bench won the game. The first half, Clippers starter Blake was fantastic. Chris was all right, but the Spurs bench kept him in the game. And I think it's going to come down to that. I think it's going to come down to the wire. Kenny says something all the time. He says, Charles, damn, you're good looking. That's the first thing he always says. But the second thing he says, the game is going to come down to execution. And the Clippers, they blew Game 2 not executing down the stretch. We know the Spurs are going to execute. Can the Clippers execute down the stretch?
You've been quoted a lot already in this halftime report, both guys quoting it. What's on your mind?
I'll explain what I mean by down the stretch execution. So it's really simple. This is a really simple win for either team. If you're playing against the Clippers, you keep Blake Griffin off the free throw line, and you put DeAndre Jordan on the free throw line. Simple. You can allow him to shoot 7 to 10 for 10, but you can't allow Blake Griffin to go 7 for 8 from the line. And if you're the Clippers, when the bench comes in, you make Patty Mills a driver, and you make Ginobili a jump shooter. That's execution. If you follow that game plan, you will have success against these guys because the other players will be consistent. Chris Paul will do what he does, Tim Duncan, but those are the X factors to me in the execution of the game plan.
I need some clarification on the word execution. When you say execution, do you mean make a play or call a play? Because it seems to me at the end of a game, the Clippers, they don't call plays.
Yeah, sometimes it's that.
They don't call plays in the game. It's just pick and roll. But the Spurs, they
but that
make plays
execution,
and call plays.
You know, I said something. When I went out and did the Spurs game this year, Greg Popovich, who's the best coach in the NBA, said something very interesting to me. He said, what's the difference between Kawhi Leonard this year and last year? He said to me, he's understanding when we call a play for him, it's for the Spurs to score, not him to score.
Right.
It was so profound and yet, as you say, so simple.
So simple.
He says his first couple years in the league, when I called this number, he thought he was supposed to score. Now he is learning, and I wish I could teach every young player in the world this. Just because they call your play, it's for the team to score. It doesn't mean you take a bad shot. And great point, Kenny. I'm not used to saying that.
It's a 1 point
I've never
game.
said you good looking.
After 24 minutes.
Oh, you used to turn handsome.
54-53. Back with more in just a second.
Welcome to the Sprint Halftime Report. Bring in your Verizon or AT&T bill, and we'll cut your rate plan in half.
And we welcome you back. Oh, geez.
Oh, my God.
You know,
Yeah.
they say some pictures never get old. That one does.
Yeah. We need to do some new makeup.
Sprint, cut your bill in half.
Can you make it bright red?
Highlights Dirk Nowitzki and the Mavs trying to stay alive in Houston. How about Dwight Howard?
This was a very entertaining game.
Dwight Howard had 18 points and 19 rebounds.
Yeah, he stayed around the rim.
He's
Stayed
had
up 7 going to
He
the
had a fantastic series, Ernie.
Dirk cherry picking and cutting the lead to 5 with 3 minutes to go. And James Harden had 28. And as Rick Carlisle said after the game, that was one of the 2 huge shots that sunk him.
You know what they didn't
Dagger,
do?
Ernie, that's called dagger.
Yeah, you know what they didn't do? They didn't have Dwight Howard setting picks at the three-point line. He stayed around the rim, and he was a big guy.
Houston wins its first series since 2009. They're waiting on the Clippers
Wow.
and the Spurs.
2009.
Yeah.